Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the February 10th Lebanon City Council meeting. Our first order of business will be the Pledge of Allegiance, but we do have some special guests tonight. So if the ladies of Troop 3590 would come forward and lead us in the pledge, we'd appreciate it.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Put your hand over your heart, or if you're in uniform, Scout salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. Sorry to spring that on you. Figured you're here. Might as well lead us. All right, we'll move on to the roll call members.
Yep.
Madam Clerk, call roll, please.
Mike Kincaid is absent. Keith Campbell.
Here.
Sandra Jasanowski. Here. Dick Robertson.
Here.
John Copeland.
Here.
Sierra Messenger.
Present.
And Rob Hawkins.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay, now we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. Do we had new minutes, correct? Minutes from 11/12/24. Any changes or edits to those minutes from the council? Entertain motion to approve.
I make a motion. We approve previous
Motion to
minutes.
approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Minutes are approved. All right, on to old business. First item up here is ordinance 2025-04. This is a council consideration of a rezone for 434 North Mountain Zion Road. This ordinance is on second reading. Christy?
Good evening. Just a quick recap. This is a zoning application for 434 North Mount Zion Road from light industrial to general business zoning designation. The application was considered by the Plan Commission at their January 21st meeting and forwarded with a recommendation to the council at their January 27th meeting for first reading. The applicant wishes to rezone the subject property to better align the zoning of the property with current commercial use and potential future investment for the property. Currently, it's a Subway restaurant located at this property. Just to kind of get the bearings, this is West State Road 32. This is Garofalo Boulevard, and this is Mount Zion Road. This is the subject property. And the light blue area is the general business zoning designation. So you can see that it is a consistent zoning classification for this area.
Okay, thank you, Christy.
Thank you.
Any questions for Christy before she goes back to her seat from council? Okay, thank you very much. Rob, will you read the ordinance, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Council. Again, ordinance 2025-04 is a rezoning of the property and amending the zoning map of the city of Lebanon. As Christy indicated, the Lebanon Plan Commission voted 9-0 to send a favorable recommendation of the rezone to this council on January 22nd, 2025. This council finds that the petitioner, SK Sunrise LLC, is the owner of the property, and it is seeking to have approximately 1.3 acres of land rezoned from light industrial zoning classification to general business. This council has paid reasonable regard to the comprehensive plan, current conditions and character of the current structures and uses in each district, and the most desirable use for which the land of each district is adopted. From and after this date, the official zoning map of the city of Lebanon shall be changed for this property from light industrial to general business.
Okay, thank you, Rob. Is there any public comment at this time concerning ordinance 2025-04? Seeing none, any discussion, comments from council? Is there a motion from council?
I'll make a motion. We approve the rezone ordinance number 2025-04.
Motion to approve, is there a second? Second from Sierra, Keith thirded it. Motion second, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That ordinance is adopted. Thank you, council. All right, next up will be ordinance 2025-05. This is establishing a small purchase policy for the city. Kevin?
Thank you. I will spare you going back into detail on this. This is here on second reading. This is an ordinance that really captures and consolidates and aligns some previous legislation that we had regarding public purchase policies, procurements related to public works, and just better streamlines, captures all that process into one document and aligns it with state code. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to go into further detail. But essentially, this is just trying to capture and align everything that we have in place with what the state says.
Thank you, Kevin. Any questions for Kevin from the council this time? Rob, period, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, again, ordinance 2025-05 is an ordinance establishing the small purchase policy for the city. Whereas pursuant to City Ordinance 98-04, which is codified in Section 30.06 of the Lebanon Code of Ordinances, the city previously designated the Board of Works as a purchasing agency for the city. And now the city desires to amend Section 30.06, the small purchase policy. We went through this in detail at the last meeting, but this council find again that the recitals are incorporated by reference. Title 3, Chapter 30, Section 30.06 is hereby amended and replaced as follows. And again, we went through this, but Section A is the purchasing agent. Section B is the establishment of the small purchase policy. Section C talks about the definitions. D, the applicability. E is the small purchase procedure. F is the purchasing limitations, again, that are all set forth in the statute. And then G is the reporting and record keeping, and H is the exceptions. And this ordinance shall be in full force and effect upon adoption.
Thank you, Rob. At this time, is there any public comment concerning ordinance 2025-05? Okay. Any further discussion, comments from council? Is there a motion?
Make a motion, we approve ordinance 2025-05.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Dick. All fair say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That ordinance is approved. Thank you, council.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes what I have for old business. Is there anything from the council? Okay. New business then. First item up here will be, actually these first two are kind of related. These are concerning the Lilly Medicine Foundry pre-allocation MOU for the water and wastewater for both the Medicine Foundry and then also the LP1X site. We'll have Jeff Jacob kind of introduce these.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. I'm here this evening with Ryan Ottinger, the Water Wastewater Operations Manager, and also Spencer Portish. He's the new Water Wastewater Project Manager. And if you have any questions, it's his first day, so direct them all to him, please. I'm here tonight presenting two of the pre-allocation agreements for Eli Lilly. The Eli Lilly teams are also here tonight. The utility board wanted to have a project update as these had been in front of them last week and wanted to hear from Eli Lilly on the status of both of these requests. And so they're here tonight. I thought I would introduce the agreement and then turn it over to Lilly. Before I get into that, I wanted to talk about sort of a status update on where we are with water allocation. And just to refresh, some months ago, the utility board and this body approved a water supply agreement with Citizens Energy Group, or Citizens Water, to bring additional capacity to the city of Lebanon in beginning in 2027, 2 MGD of water in 2027, 10 additional 10 phased in 2028, and then for a total of 25 additional MGD in 2031. So that was sort of step one. We entered into that water supply agreement. And then as this council is aware, late last year, we closed on the financing or the bonds for the phase one of the water project to bring the 2 MGD of water to the city of Lebanon. And then we expect to close on the wastewater bonds in Q2 of this year. Now, one of the things that's essential for for everyone to understand is that the water is an exciting development, and that's a big step. But we also have to have the corresponding wastewater capacity to treat that water. So the water, in essence, while there is a little formula that it's not gallon for gallon or bucket for bucket, it has to go somewhere. So we need to expand our wastewater treatment facility to accommodate these additional phases of water, and that'll all be a plan that you're generally aware of and we'll see in the coming months and years. All of this is to say that just like the Meta Facebook agreement, the LP1X Lilly agreement in front of you and the Medicine Foundry agreement are contemplated as part of the water bond capitalization. So in other words, the LEAP projects are providing elements for the funding for the water and eventually wastewater bonds that you've approved and will be coming in front of you. And that's a very important and essential distinction that, in part of the inducement and getting into the agreements with IEDC, that having those projects that will fund that infrastructure to bring the benefit of additional water and then the corresponding wastewater treatment is essential. Nothing else happens without that financing. So you will see in the coming months some of the wastewater funding and some of those agreements coming to you by way of ordinance. However, we have another phase in the interim, and that we will be bringing in front of you non-LEAP pre-allocation agreements. So for projects that have received, projects by owners and developers that have received approval in the city but are not part of that LEAP financing that pays for that infrastructure, it's now time to start rolling those out and having meetings and discussions with developers and owners to talk through that process. So in addition to these pre-allocation agreements that you have in front of you this evening for approval, again, distinction being LEAP versus non-LEAP, financing versus not on the infrastructure, you will begin to see in the coming weeks other agreements with those other projects, if you will, in the non-LEAP area. So another development that has happened, Lebanon Utilities has completed its 2024 water assessment, and we're looking, and that is still gathering a little bit of data and analysis in terms of whether or not there's additional capacity that can be released before 2027. And we're continuing to have discussions with the utility board and analyze our data. But we want to have all of those discussions with approved projects with developers and owners in the coming weeks. And those letters, scheduling those meetings, we hope to will be going out this week. So turning to the Medicine Foundry agreement, this is a two-phase agreement. It is much like very similar to the Meta Facebook agreement that you approved some months ago before the holidays, requesting phased in 2027 water and wastewater EDUs, and then again in 2028, phased water and wastewater capacity. This agreement was approved by the Lebanon Utility Board 4-1. I don't want to speak for the member that voted against, but their concern was making sure that we are getting those other agreements out. And I don't know, in terms of scheduling, he wants to see those other projects and pre-allocation agreements for, shelved projects that are outside of LEAP. He wants to see those moved along. Would be a brief summary of why I believe there was one negative vote, and we are, as indicated, in process of doing that. I'm happy to answer any questions on the agreement. I think that the EDUs and capacities are spelled out. It is very similar to the Meta Facebook agreement. A 10% deposit is paid. When we tell you that the water is available, you pay the full availability fee or forfeit that capacity. I'm happy to answer questions. Otherwise, I believe the Medicine Foundry team is here to give you a little bit of a project update.
So Jeff, quick question. So
Yes, sir.
this is essentially water that we'll be getting in the future from citizens. This isn't current water allocation.
That is absolutely correct. And if I didn't make that clear, this is for 2027 and 2028, corresponding to that water supply agreement with citizens on those delivery dates. And you'll note in this agreement that financing and construction and delivery of the water from citizens are all contingencies spelled out in these pre-allocation agreements.
So we will, so by the time the water is needed for these developments, the water will be here.
Our hope is that those will seamlessly occur on time in January of 2027 and then 2028.
Thank you. Questions from council?
I don't know if you know this off the top of your head or.
Not working.
Or if somebody else might be able to answer this, but roughly, what percentage of water have we already allocated of the citizens' water that's coming in? Like, how much have we already allocated? And if that makes sense.
That's a great question. The only water that we have allocated to any user in the LEAP district of the new allocation, that 2027, is the Meta Facebook EDUs. That's the only capacity. The Grasslands project, which we'll talk about here in just a minute, that was all existing capacity. So they are current customers currently being served. There is a request for some additional capacity on the LP1X, which we'll talk about in a minute. But that's been the only allocation that we've given.
And so if we reserve this amount of water, how much does that take up of the grand total? Like,
Great question. And I would have to defer to
I'm not
Ryan
looking
on
for
that.
like a calculation, but
We are
like
very
roughly
much
50% or,
Yeah. Yeah, so great question. We do have running totals that we are very much studying and analyzing, and we're looking at what projects have been approved and looking at what we can serve into the future, and are very much, that'll be part of our discussion with any owner or developer that would like to enter into a pre-allocation agreement. And literally anybody that's had that approval will be offering it to them. You want to talk about numbers a little bit?
I don't have the exact percentage, but I do know that of for the civil and non-LEAP projects, the allocation for the LEAP district has been taken into calculation, but also all of the shelved projects, those will all be able to move forward in 2027, all the ones that are on there. So that has been carved out, so we don't oversell to one or the other. We're trying to keep a balance, but those have been carved out specifically to start their phasing process in 2027 based on their needs and what the pre-allocation agreements will spell out. But also in 2028, we are carving out to ensure that the civil, all the planned and approved projects as of right now, we don't know what the future holds, but those are all being accounted for in that 2027 water.
That's what I was worried about.
And Ryan, to your point though too, right? We also said that we may have some additional ones that we have available today that we can work through. So that would actually open up even more of that 2 MGD available as well if those are done before the pre-27 water as well, correct?
Yeah, we're working through those calculations, but anything that is freed up, we're going to look into that and work with the Utility Service Board to try to accommodate the civil planned projects.
Additional questions from council?
Anything else from me? Otherwise, I'll turn it over to the Lilly folks.
Perfect. So we have Paul Donica and Ashley Judge from Lilly. I guess it's going to be Paul first.
Good evening. Again, my name is Paul Donica. I'm with Eli Lilly. I am the project director for the Medicine Foundry, and appreciate you guys having us in tonight. Just want to give you a quick overview, obviously, of the site. I think you've seen it in different forums. This one is different than LP1, and I'll give you a quick overview of it. So the Medicine Foundry is, unlike our brothers and sisters up north, where they're manufacturing, this is actually part of our development phase, and it is a Center for Advanced Manufacturing Research and provides clinical trial material for our new molecules as they come through the pipeline. They also provide supply chain resilience and rapid response for new molecules if we do have other issues in our supply chain. So this is a very valuable investment for Eli Lilly. It's about $4.5 billion additional investment into the Lebanon area, located in the LEAP district, as you know. It's a 200-acre parcel located on State Road 32 and County Road 200 West. I'll show you kind of geographically where that's at in just a second. But it's also going to provide roughly 400 or so professional jobs once it's completed. And in the interim, we'll have a lot of construction jobs over the next 4 years. So like I was saying, I just wanted to differentiate this from our brothers and sisters up north. We are further south, like I said, down by State Road 32. Just to give you an idea of where we're at, this is the general footprint for the site on the at the southwest corner of 32 and County Road 200 West. This facility is made up of several different buildings on the campus. It is a full campus expansion for us. So the things that are involved in that are we've got a lab admin facility, so that we'll be doing development in the front piece in the labs. We have a small molecule facility, hybrid, which is going to be doing a lot of new molecule development. And then biologics is another area that we've got. Supporting that would be our logistics and warehousing, and then just corridors and utilities. So general renderings here, just to kind of give you a flavor of what it looks like. It's in with the development board right now, going through review. So just wanted to give you a brief overview of it and see if you had any questions for us.
All right. Any questions for Paul about the Medicine Foundry? So I did, when Dave Ricks made the announcement about this, they said this is kind of the first kind of a new model for you guys. Could you talk a little bit more about how this is kind of unique, I guess, in the pharmaceutical space?
So this is one of those facilities that is, like I said, is more on our development side. And so it is advancing our molecules through the pipeline faster. So some of the therapeutics that we'll advance here are things that we hadn't been able to do historically, or we had to outsource. And so we're bringing those into our own control. And so with supply chain, we can move faster through that molecule development and get medicines out to people faster.
Any questions for Paul from the council? Okay. Would probably make sense to, Jeff, do you want to do these separately, or do you want to? I would, please. Yeah, okay. Okay. Rob, you guys have all received the copy of the MOU, so discussions, comments from council on this? Any public comment concerning the MOU? Is there a motion from council?
I'll make a motion, we approve the MOU with
For the Medicine Foundry. Yep. Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, Jeff.
Thank you for that, council. I will not bore you with my earlier comments, but this is as we were talking earlier about the original allocations on the Grasslands project, the LP1X memorandum, or water supply pre-allocation agreement in front of you this evening does not include wastewater. And while we always have to have that corresponding offset, this is going into what we call the old Grassland site and the LP1 site, and it's the LP1X, it's the expansion. They have plenty of wastewater capacity that was over allocated, and this is a corresponding amount of water that they are asking for in phased, again, 2027 and 2028. The EDUs and gallons are set out within the agreement. Again, this is also very similar to the Meta Facebook agreement and then the agreement that you just approved. This was also approved by the Utility Service Board, 4-1, same issue. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm aware that the LP1X team is also here.
Any questions for Jeff from the council? Okay. Ashley?
Thank you very much, Mayor, City Council, and our special guests in particular. Thank you for having me this evening. I'm just going to provide you a quick update on what was formerly that grasslands project that Jeff mentioned, now the Lebanon manufacturing campus, and specifically the request we're making today on the pre-allocation of additional water supply to support an expansion at that site. I have a few more slides than my colleague just because we're a little bit further along in the development of our site, but hopefully I'll be able to give you a good oversight of how the project's progressing and answer any questions you might have. So I won't labor on this. Paul covered it already, but we do have two now distinct different locations in Lebanon as Lily. Paul already spoke to the Medicine Foundry located just at the bottom of that picture, at the south of the Leap district. That is our research development where we'll be discovering new products, new treatments, new drugs that will hopefully change patients' lives. Once we've discovered those medicines, we obviously have to make them. And that's where the top project there, the Lilly Lebanon Manufacturing Campus, comes into play. So that is a large manufacturing facility. It actually contains two different manufacturing sites on that same campus, which I'll talk to in a second. And that will predominantly or mainly focus on the manufacturing of what we call an active pharmaceutical ingredient. So that's really the active ingredient within the medicines that hopefully have that positive therapeutic effect on patients. So just for rehash, and we always come back to our mission as Lily, and I'm sure I know some members of the council are probably familiar with this and maybe others less so, but really our mission as Lily is to unite caring with discovery to create medicines that will change patients' lives and make lives better for people around the world. As I just said, both the Medicine Foundry and the manufacturing campus play a core role in that. Specifically, the manufacturing campus will help supply those patients that are waiting for those treatments. Probably 2 years ago now, I'm losing track of time, but in total, Lilly has now announced a $9 billion investment in that manufacturing campus in the Leap Lebanon district. It's a 600-acre campus, and when we're fully up and operational, we foresee over 900 direct Lilly jobs at that site. And these jobs will vary from your frontline operations staff who will be making our medicines every single day, our technicians, our mechanical, electrical technicians, through to scientists, engineers, leadership, and many, many more. It's hard to name them all. And I'll talk a little bit more about recruiting and hiring maybe later on projects. That's something we're pretty excited about for 2025. Just to centre folks on the direct request today. So as I mentioned, our manufacturing campus as a whole has two manufacturing sites. The site that we're requesting additional water for today is called LP1. It's the larger of the two sites on the campus, and it's pictured here, as you can see. So the original grasslands development that would have been approved 2 years ago now had two core manufacturing buildings, a small molecule 1 building and a peptides 1 building. You can see indicated there with SM1 and PEP1. The amendment to our development plan that was approved last October was to add 2 additional manufacturing buildings, an additional small molecule building, and an additional peptide building. So SM2 just located at the top of the screen, and PEP2 located at the bottom right. There's no other additional buildings added. It was just 2 additional manufacturing buildings on the campus. And they will continue to produce medicines along the same platforms that was originally approved in the original development plan. In terms of progress to date, this is kind of exciting for us. Anyone who's been up around the site will have seen that it's going up fast. But these are just some pictures from, as you can see, a few weeks ago with the snow, right? Up at the site and some of the progress we've made. So the top 2 pictures are 2 of those manufacturing buildings. So like I said, we originally had a peptides 1 and a small molecule 1. So they're in the top 2 pictures. And you can see the structural steel is pretty much complete on one and almost complete on the second, and progressing well. Actually, in the top left picture, in the very front, you can see our admin lab building, which will actually be at the very front of our site, and that's also progressing well. The bottom left picture probably gives you the best indication of what these buildings are going to look like when they're done. You know, we're holding ourselves to a high standard on the finish on the buildings. We're conscious of the community around us, and that's our central utilities building, which is the farthest progressed. And it's pretty fully closed in at this stage and dried in, but it gives an indication. It gives an indication of the finish that we're striving for on all the buildings on our sites. Finally, in the bottom right, this is something we're excited for. This is a picture from last year, from 2024, a recruiting event, a sort of a careers event we held in the Boone County area. As we move into 2025, really, you're going to see a step up in that space. So at the end of, specifically for LP1, the site we're speaking to today, at the end of last year, we finished at 260 people. Over 60% of those were directly from the state of Indiana as part of our team. Now, a lot of those team were specialized roles focused on the startup and design of this facility. As we move into 2025, our focus from a hiring point of view will really turn to our frontline staff, the guys and the folks that'll be on the floor making the medicine with safety first, quality always for many, many years to come. And these are very much our entry-level roles. We're excited to bring people on early, to train them, to provide them the skills that they need so that when we're ready to make medicine, these guys will be a core part of our team. And in line with that, we'll be running a number of sort of open career events for the community to come and join through 2025, the first of which will actually take place on March 6th at the Lebanon Fairgrounds. And we'd really love and welcome any members of the community who might be interested in just exploring and meeting some of our team and understanding what types of opportunities we have to come along and learn more about what we're doing and what might be there in terms of opportunities for them. So that's, I think, an exciting milestone for us this year. In terms of community outreach, we hope our impact goes beyond just the jobs and the employment we're bringing to Lebanon. We've been very, I would say, deliberate in our approach to community outreach. Both Floor, our main construction partner, and ourselves at Lilly have, dedicated personnel who are focused on working with the community and helping to identify areas where Lilly and Floor can make the biggest impact. We're guided by 4 key pillars or principles that help us in sort of navigating how and where we want to focus our time and our efforts. As you can see there, they're healthcare and wellness, education, community, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. So over the last, and really last year was probably our first full year where we had a critical mass of people to help support some of these efforts, but we've, supported over 30 nonprofit organizations. I think volunteering is very important to us. It's a good way to help the community, but also help our teammates and our employees and our staff get to know the community that we're working in and build that relationship in terms of the responsibility we have to our locality. And we've in total seen over 2,500 volunteer hours. The last big one was the picture there on the right, which is a diaper packing event we held just before the holidays, before we broke up, where we packed over 70,000 diapers for distribution across 8 different Boone County organizations, which we hope obviously made a big impact to the mothers and the families that needed them. So more to come in that space for sure, just generally across our 4 pillars. I would say education is a particular focus area for us. Obviously, I think it's an area we feel we can really have a big impact. And over 2024, we saw over $50,000 worth of grants, scholarships, and just financial support for the Lebanon and wider Boone County school districts through that area. So I think we're only beginning, we're only getting started, we're only building our team, but the impact that we're hoping we're starting to have and the community is starting to see is hopefully clear, and hopefully that will continue into the future as we continue to mobilize our team. So really that was it. It was a whistle-stop tour of where we are so far and what we've done so far. I'd just like to thank you, the City Council, for your support thus far. And all just the Lebanon and wider Boone County community. We've had great engagement with neighbours, with different groups alike, and we look forward to continuing that partnership as we move forward. So if you have any questions.
Thank you, Ashley. And I know actually the City of Lebanon is one of the organizations you helped with our early day of service with our Parks Department. And that was just absolutely phenomenal. I see John in the back there. John always tells me that was about 2 weeks work done in about 8 hours. So he was very grateful for the many hands making light work with that. So on behalf of the city, I want to thank you guys for that. So any questions for Ashley from the council? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, any Further discussion, comments concerning the MOU with the LP1X site? Is there a motion from council?
I'll make the motion again to approve the memorandum of understanding with Lily's LPI-X water supply pre-allocation agreement.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, next item up here is a food and beverage request concerning 1313 Beck Street.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like I'm going to let you down. I'm not going to talk about the billions of dollars I'm bringing to the community. I'm going to ask you for some money. But it's a very small amount. I'm back with 1313 South Beck Street. We were able to close on that right after, actually before Christmas, and got possession of it right after the first of the year. So we moved along and got our demolition team all set up, and I'm here tonight to ask for that funding. Ace Paving Demolition was our low bid for $17,900, which is a fantastic deal. That was a shock to see something that low, which is great. The whole site will be scraped. All the foundations will be removed, the fencing, the outbuildings, everything. It'll be turned into a grass lot. And on top of the $17,900, we need to perform an asbestos inventory to make sure we cover our end. So we hand that over to the contractor. They know exactly what they have to deal with in terms of removing asbestos. And if there's anything in there, it could be some floor tiles or something like that. Nothing like really concerning, but it's just part of the process. So the total ask for demolition tonight is $21,100 for 1313 South Beck Street.
So I had Derek bring this forward for the food and beverage. Obviously, this is part of our goal to expand Admiral Longley Park and really kind of help clean up some entrances we have around that area. We've got some exciting things actually happening in Admiral Longley Park this year, and so wanted to kind of get this ball rolling with it. We did tap the park impact fees to kind of fund the acquisition of the property, but we wanted to. I didn't want to kind of go back to that well again with the demolition of it. So that's kind of what we thought the food and beverage might be an appropriate fund for that. So
Don't we have a line in in the planning for demolition?
that has, over the last few budget cycles, that's been removed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I couldn't
we had
remember.
to-
I know we've discussed that in the past.
Unfortunately,
so-
it was, last couple ones have been tighter, so that one got removed. So, yep. So obviously we would be proposed to use part of the $500,000 we budget from food and beverage for this project. So questions for Derek from the council? Okay. Any public comment concerning the proposed demolition of 1313 Beck Street? Okay. There a motion from council? Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Sierra. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, Derek.
Thank you.
All right, next item D here. This is this will be really exciting for everyone. A drainage discussion for concerning the Chadwick Village ditch. Kevin.
Thank you very much. Let me get connected here. I think this is going to be a brief discussion, but we did want to bring this up for discussion. And really what I'm here for is because Mr. Copeland has asked me to come here and facilitate a conversation, a discussion about this area. So what you're looking at on the screen is the north end of the Chadwick neighborhood. And then the area that's more brownish in color is Angelique Gardens phases 1A and maybe a little bit of 1B that was under construction at the time of this aerial photo. So the Chadwick ditch is this area that you see highlighted in blue and then green north here. This is different than some of our other ditches you might know of around the city. This is a city ditch. This is really the only one we have other than some roadside ditches. And we've had some drainage issues with this ditch. It was dredged a couple of years back and there's some standing water in it. It's a very flat ditch and poses a constant problem of maintenance, mosquitoes, everything else that comes up with some standing water that stands quite frequently in this area. So we engaged banning engineers to look at this and to come up with a proposal. And this is just a high-level sketch of what they would propose. It is not as simple as you might think of filling it in and maybe burying storm sewer pipe, something of that nature. It is a ditch that has been there long enough that IDEM and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has claimed jurisdiction over this ditch as a water of the U.S. So that means you're very limited as to what you can do with it. We've had meetings with IDEM and DNR and the Corps of Engineers on site and walk the area. And really that, what you see before you is a result of that meeting. So one of the things that we would propose is that we would relocate the ditch and naturalize the ditch to a more stream-like natural appearance. And that's what the purple line is. You can see there's a meandering ditch or stream that would be created, and the blue area that's highlighted would be filled in. And so those backyards that were adjacent to that ditch, that water would drain across into that field, which is a piece of ground owned by the city, into this new ditch, this new naturalized stream / ditch. That would involve federal permitting, that would involve wetland mitigation, would involve a couple of different processes to get us to this point. And I will give you the caveat that that new naturalized ditch will have to have standing water in it certain times of the year. That's part of the mitigation requirement that would be included with any permit to fill or relocate that ditch and to naturalize it. But it would be self-mitigation on site, and there would be no additional mitigation that would have to be done. And then the green portion of the ditch could be regraded so that it does drain better and does drain all the way to dry. But this naturalized area would still have some water standing in at certain times of the year to meet the hydraulic and hydrologic requirements of the mitigation. But then that standing water would no longer be at the edge of people's backyards. So this is a high-level concept that was put forth to how we could, I guess, improve this area at the request of some residents, at the request of Councilman Copeland. And I wanted to just bring this before you. This project is not funded at this time, so this is just something for discussion. And if this were a project you would like me to bring forward with a funding request, we could do that later in the year. But for right now, this is just up for your discussion and questions and answers that I can help with.
Any questions?
I have a question. The new ditch.
Yes.
Do you anticipate that it'll have less standing water than what is currently there now?
It would have less at certain times of the year, but in order to avoid off-site mitigation, it would have to perform like a natural stream that you might find anywhere in Indiana, which means at certain times of the year, it would have to have water standing in it to replicate that habitat that you would see in a natural ditch. Or a natural stream, I should use that word.
So you don't anticipate then less water standing, just in a different place?
Just in a different place.
High level, what are we talking? I mean,
Design, permitting, construction, it's very early, but the budget that we've been told to assume is $350,000.
Some of the things that some of the residents are here now, when we get heavy rains out at Chadwick, the water that's in that, I call it an easement, you call it a ditch. When we first moved out there, it was a couple feet, if that. It wasn't even that deep. They've dredged it 2 or 3 times. Originally, it wasn't connected anywhere, so it just sat there. They eventually connected it to Reynolds Ditch to allow it to drain. And they dredged it a couple more times where it's to the point it's lower than Reynolds Ditch. So the water has no place to go. So it sits there and sits there. We recently had a rain a month, 6 weeks ago, very heavy rain. And A lot of photos were sent to me. I sent those to you. The water, and this is just in the fall, winter, was all the way up to people's backyards, and wasn't even spring yet when the heavy rains come. So that's a lot of the concern. The other concerns that some of the people have was when they moved out there 30 years ago, their sump pumps and things, their pipes went all the way out to that little easement, and that's where they drained, and it would drain away. They have tubes from their downspouts that drain out there as well. So their concerns is if you fill in that area that you're talking about, where would their sump pump drains go and where would the other tiles go? And that's what they're worried about because they paid for that 30 years ago and they're just concerned, they don't feel responsible. They have to pay it again now if they make some sort of changes. And then per your and my discussion, we talked about right now the city mows that and they take care of that. And you talked about some foliage, some trees and shrubberies and things like that where that would take over. And some of those plants and things would maybe hopefully take up some of the water that sits out there.
Yes, that would be part of it. The banks of the stream would have to be planted with natural material. We would more naturalize the entire area. We bush hog it a couple times a year, I believe, as it is now. That would maybe become even less maintenance for us long term. There would be some pretty intense maintenance to get the plants, the native plants, fully established. But once they were established, then this area would become essentially more naturalized, not just the stream, but the entire area. And long term would require less maintenance, where we may not even bush hog it anymore. It would just be allowed to grow up as it would eventually become more natural, more wooded as the years went on. It would allow it to just return to how nature intended it to be.
The stream that you showed on your example, does it connect to anything? The new one that you showed on the purple?
The purple would connect to a newly regraded ditch on the north side of Chadwick that would then connect at the northeast corner of Chadwick to the Reynolds ditch.
Would it allow it to drain?
It would.
I know there's residents here. Is this open for discussion?
More questions,
Thank
but
you.
yeah. Any more questions for Kevin from the
Yeah,
council?
Kevin, put the picture back up.
Yep.
Please. Thank you. I'm assuming that's a pond for their new addition?
It is.
And there's a way we could take it to that pond?
I don't think we could. In fact, we offered we offered to possibly give this piece of property to that developer and see if they wouldn't incorporate the entire piece of property into a larger detention area. We thought it might be a good win for them. They'd get more developable land. We would get this property off our hands. But really what it came down to for them was concerns over just what we're talking about, the permitting and mitigation requirements that would have been required just to even, to say raise that area and turn into a pond, that there would have been off-site mitigation required because this is the waters of the U.S. There are wetlands on site as well. I wish I knew better historically what has happened here. I think this was always supposed to be a future phase of the Chadwick neighborhood. For some reason, that original developer didn't move forward and somehow found solace with the city taking over this piece of ground. And to be honest,
Got a lot of history.
it's an asset that really is probably more of a liability to us than an asset.
Further questions for Kevin on this? Public comment concerning this topic?
I'm Huck Lewis, 1020 Berry Drive. Wanted to talk a little bit about the history. When I moved in there, it was a lake. There were beaver back there. They were taking down trees. So that's why when I became mayor, we turned around and we took it over because there was a so-called developer, gentleman that was in real estate, that he thought his father did the development in the 70s. And that's the way they did it then. And he thought that he could maintain it. Well, you're sitting there and it looks like a lake, and he doesn't have the wherewithal to do anything with it. So that's why we took it over. And it's gotten better over the years, but the water still stands in the ditch. And I understand that. I mean, I understand what's happened, but I just wanted to give a little history so people understand where we were coming from when we took that over, because it would have been a whole lot worse than it is now. I guarantee it.
Any further comments? Okay. Any final questions or closing? Obviously, there's no action on this tonight. It's just kind of educational kind of update of where we were. Certainly, 350 is a fairly big price tag, and we can think about how we want to proceed forward. But
I would ask that some of the information we gave to Kevin tonight that you can look at on the sump pumps and things like that. Those are awful expensive homes out there that we really don't want to see the back of them get flooded. Some of them have basements and things like that. And like I said, this last year, that water got awful high up in their backyards. And that was just a heavy rain that we had.
Yeah,
about 6 weeks
I
ago.
remember the event. We looked it up. It wasn't a tremendous amount of rain. It was a tremendous amount in a very short period of time. It was only about a half an inch, but you were dealing with very heavily saturated groundwater conditions at that time. But certainly what you saw is a result of a very intense rainfall situation, time of year with saturated groundwater conditions. But to your point about people's downspouts, people's sump pump systems, yes, that would have to be part of this. There'd have to be some investigation to figure out what's out there and where it goes and how that could be, let's also say, mitigated, whether those are to provide storm sewer outlets to the storm sewer system that drains the streets. Those are things that we can look into to figure out how we have to do that. Again, right now, there's just been not any real money allocated to further study this. So I think it would have to be something we would study, put together a more comprehensive plan that would include mitigation of downspouts and sump pumps, as well as then the environmental mitigation of the ditch.
I'm okay with that. But this is the norm unfortunately, for that area. The water, like Huck said before, it used to just flood back there. We had lakefront property back there for some of the homes when we had heavy rains, just no place for it to go. And over the course of the years, they've made some changes that have helped, but now we're back to where we were. Yeah. And so we're just looking for something to help the residents out there and help the homes out there.
Understood.
Is this new ditch far enough away from their homes that it's going to alleviate the mosquitoes and all the issues that they have right now? Because it seems like if you're letting it grow back up.
If you talk to environmentalists about returning an area like this to a more naturalized state, the benefit you get of a naturalized creek is it creates habitat for not only the mosquitoes, but the things that eat mosquitoes, frogs, snakes, other animals, bats. So that's part of it, where it performs as less of a nuisance because you're allowing nature to take its course. And it's not just standing water that's surrounded, at least on one side, by turf grass that is not conducive to those other animal life, right? So if you return it to a natural state, allow the banks and the area around it to be natural, you see bats, you see snakes, you see other wildlife that take care of some of those nuisance problems that, our monocultures of turf grass and fescue just don't provide for the type of wildlife that is needed to reduce those things.
So do you want water or snakes, John?
Wow, bats.
Yeah.
We got bats now.
I think
We do have a lot of bats in this town. If you haven't seen that, I can promise you there are a lot of bats.
Any closing thoughts from council or final questions for Kevin? Okay. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Actually, don't go anywhere. Yep.
Yeah, I think
Next
I'm
up will be Resolution 2025-01. This is additional appropriation request for Grant Street, Noble Street, and Witt Road.
So there's a series of appropriation requests that are before you tonight, 1, 2, and 3. And essentially, if you've seen some of the project funding requests, information that I've sent out that is further outlines these things. I would anticipate at least one more, if not a couple more, project appropriation requests to come before you. But this is the first because these are the highest priorities. These are projects that are already in the works. These are projects that perhaps are already under contract or have financial commitment letters from this body that we need to take action on to make sure that we can pay our bills and fulfill our commitments and obligations related to projects. So,
Yeah, but I do want to say, back during our budget workshops, council, we did talk about all these projects. And at that time, that was when we said, hey, we're not going to put it in the budget, but the plan was to use these funds. So essentially, we're doing kind of what we talked about in the budget process. And then once the year hit, we would then allocate the funds as we had planned. So.
Absolutely. And most of these projects were also included in the financial report, the capital improvement plan, the Baker Tilly generator for you that outlined expenses that we would have this year. And the mayor's exactly right. These were pulled out of the budget in order to balance the budget. So really, this is about appropriation requests to spend the surplus monies we have. We're more than capable of making these appropriations and making these commitments for these fundings without increasing our tax liability to the citizens. This is about living within our means and spending some of the financial, assets that we have.
Well, and this is going to the CCD fund, which we've been saving up for this express purpose. So
yeah. So this first one is for CCD. It includes 3 projects. One is Grant Street Phase 2. One is the Witt Road project, and then the Noble Street project. Witt and Noblesville, there's no construction. This is really just about funding the engineering right-of-way commitments that we have this year. So those are the 3 CCD projects that are included in this. And let's see, the Grant Street Phase 2 project is $842,905. The Witt Road project funding for this year is $149,000. The Noble Street project is $196,464 for a total in CCD Fund 4402 appropriations of $1,188,369. Again, those are all CCD funding appropriations that cover these 3 projects. We'll talk about the other 2 as we get to those, but we would respectfully ask for your consideration to fund these commitments and move these projects forward. These projects do all include funding for services that are at least partially reimbursable from the state. So this is a guess as to what we think we need to keep the project running, understanding that some of those appropriations will be refunded back to us. But those reimbursements that we receive back from the state cannot just be turned around and respent. I think there's been some changes in some of the policies at DLGF. Those funds have to go back into the fund that they were appropriated from, and then to reuse them, they have to be reappropriated. So you can no longer create these sort of revolving funds where we can just spend money, get it back, spend it again. So that's the reason why all 3 of these requests are before you tonight.
Go back in the CCD fund.
It will go back in the CCD fund, which then would have to be appropriated for us to spend it. So we think this will cover the expenses needed for this year. But these are estimates based off of actual billings and appropriations that we think we'll see from our consultants and from our right-of-way buyers. So hopefully that'll be enough. If not, then we will come back to you for another appropriation to spend the reimbursement dollars that we receive back.
Further questions?
Kevin, I have a question.
Yeah.
On Noble Street, can you tell me exactly where you're talking about on Noble?
Yeah, so we have a federal grant for the reconstruction of Noble Street. It was programmed in fiscal year 2029, which means in NDOT terms, fiscal year 2029 is starts July 1, 2028. And that's for the reconstruction of Noble Street from the intersection of 39 to the intersection with 32. So Noble Street from 39 all the way out to where 32 comes into town. Would include intersection improvements, sidewalks, curb gutter, drainage, utilities, pathway extensions, pathway connections, traffic calming and improvements as you cross between Hot Pond and Admiral Langley Park, that would slow down traffic, probably with speed tables and pedestrian islands and things of that nature.
So if I hear you correct, it's from 39 all the way west underneath the railroad, all the way out.
No, east. Yeah, I'm sorry, to the 32 east of town, yes. So it'd be from 39 east all the way to where you hit 32 on the east side of town, yes.
So you're not talking the other way?
Not talking the other way, no. That from 39 to the railroad tracks was reconstructed, I think sometime around 10, 12 years ago. I'm not sure. That was another federal aid project prior to this administration, prior to my being here. But no, this is all east of 39.
Other questions? Tanya, you want to read or you want Rob to read it? You can do the additionals. So.
That's fine. Resolution 2025-01, whereas the City of Lebanon is duly formed municipal corporation within the state of Indiana to maintain fiscal integrity of the finances of the city. At times, it becomes necessary to appropriate general funds within the approved budget. It has been determined that it's now necessary to appropriate more money than it was originally appropriated. And additional appropriations require public hearing, of which the council has served proper notice in accordance with IC 5-3-1. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Lebanon, Resolution 2025-01, to appropriate funds for the CCD Fund for Grant Street, Noble Street, and Witt Road for Fund 4402. And it's $1,188,370. I know Kevin said
Sorry, probably a rounding
69,
error in my
but
spreadsheet.
but we rolled it up to 70.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay. This time then, there was a public hearing required for this resolution. So this time I open the public hearing on resolution 2025-01. If you need public comment, please come forward, state your name for the record, and keep comments to 3 minutes if possible. No sudden movements. I will close the public hearing on resolution 2025-01. Further discussion, comments from council or a motion?
Can you say how much we have now in the CCD fund?
I mean, I can look it up, but
We're asking for money. I'm just curious, do we have enough to?
DLGF wouldn't approve the additional unless we had sufficient balance in it.
We have a couple more resolutions. I didn't know if it was coming from CCD as well or not.
Those come from general and
food and
beverage
beverage is one and the other's general.
Yep.
But no, I don't know the balance off the top of my head.
And again, with these three, primarily these are 80% reimbursable, so the money goes back in.
I'll make a motion, we approve resolution 2025-01.
Motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That resolution is adopted. Thank you, council. All right, next up is Resolution 2025-02. This is additional appropriation for general, it says resurfacing, it's not resurfacing, remodel of the clerk treasurer's office renovation. So I just caught that. We're not resurfacing a road.
It does include resurfacing as well.
It is.
Yes.
It's resurfacing, but not of the clerk treasurer's office.
Oh, and.
Yes.
Not of.
So
Gotcha. Okay.
similar to the first one, this includes 3 projects. These are a little different. These are not.
Comment in there.
These are not federally reimbursable projects, but the resurfacing project does take into account that the community crossing matching grant that we received. So again, there are 3 projects in this one. These are all general fund. One is the 2025 resurfacing program, totaling $762,823. Then there's the clerk treasurer's office renovations, which totals $47,732. And then there is the Payzer update, which we are legally obligated to do this year to keep ourselves eligible for those federal monies and community crossing monies associated with our street projects. And that is for $65,000 even. So again, the total for all 3 of those general fund additional appropriations is $875,555. Yeah, absolutely. Resurfacing program, the additional appropriation is $762,823, 762,823. The clerk treasurer's office renovation is $47,732, 47732. And the Payzer update and pavement asset management plan update is $65,000.
And the resurfacing, where is that at?
The resurfacing is several projects. Let me pull up my list here. There were 13 projects included. That is Cox Street, and this is based off of the resurface or the pavement asset management plan that was performed and adopted 2 years ago in 2023. Yes. And that includes Cox Street from State Road 39 to Meridian Street. These are all, based off of this pavement asset management plan with a couple of additions that are adjacent to other major reconstruction projects like Grant Street, where streets took a lot of additional damage for additional traffic because of some of the bypasses and detours. So let me back up. Cox Street from State Road 39 to Meridian Street is number 1. Number 2 is Kersey Street from Franklin Street to Essex Street. Number 3, John Bart Road from Washington Street to Elizaville Road. Those portions that are city controlled, some of that street is county controlled. Lafayette Avenue from Main Street to Windhaven Lane, or the I-65 on-ramp. Lafayette Avenue or Windhaven Lane, according to the state's inventory, it is not Windhaven Lane, it is Lafayette Avenue, but we all locally call it Windhaven Lane. So it is Windhaven Lane from the end of Lafayette Avenue or the 65 on-ramp to the dead end. Then we have we have the we have Noble Street from Ransdell Road to State Road 39, Royal Street from Hoy Avenue to State Road 39, Camp Street from Lafayette Avenue to Hoy Avenue. It crosses it twice. And William Street from Park Street to Ann Street from William Street to Fordyce Street. And then we have the State Road 39 frontage street from Essex Street to the dead end at the parking lot of Dr. Cascione's office, his dental office there, right at the corner of Camp and 39. And then 2 alleys over adjacent to the Grant Street project, the alley between William Street and Fordyce, and the alley between Ann Street and Grant Street. So 13 separate projects. The first 10 were all part of the community crossing program The frontage road and the alleys were not part of the community crossings because those were off-system roads that aren't part of the NDOT system inventory. But all those were based off of our pavement asset management plan, with the exception of the two alleys, which are because of all the work that we've been doing on Grant Street and Fordyce. And then we added also in that portion of John Bart Road because of all the Fordyce improvements, as well as the school projects over along John Bart Road.
In the county.
In the county, yeah. The county also did their portions last year, so we're going to do our portions this year.
Can you send that list out in an email to all of us?
Sure.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, Tanya, read it, please.
Resolution 2025-02 for an additional appropriation. I'll just cut to the importance of this one instead of reading through what I just read through. This resolution is to appropriate funds from the general fund for resurfacing the clerk treasurer's office reno and the Pazer study from Fund 1101, the general fund, in the amount of $875,555.
Thank you, Tanya. Okay, with that, there will be a public hearing on this resolution. This time I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2025-02. If you have any public comments, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, please. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on Resolution 2025-02. Any further discussion, comments, or motions from council?
Make a motion that we approve Resolution 2025-02.
Rob thinks we should pave the roads. Is there a second? Second from John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That is approved. Thank you, council. All right, and last item I have here on my agenda is Resolution 2025-03. This is a food and beverage additional appropriation request concerning the Memorial and Abner Longley pickleball courts.
Thank you. And I apologize to the scouts in the room. I promise that engineering and STEM careers are much more exciting than this.
We're building things, right?
We
This
are
is
building
the
things.
thing.
This is the
To build things, you have to have money, so.
the stuff that has to happen before we get to go out and play in the dirt and have a lot of fun. All right, this is resolution number 3, 2025-03. These are all food and beverage requests, and there are only 2 of them. And these total $105,574. And these are additional food and beverage requests that add to food and beverage requests that were awarded last year to replace our pickleball courts. So that original request was based off of construction estimates that we had put together. And then after bidding, these are the gaps that we needed to actually fund those contracts. So the Memorial Park pickleball court was short $51,815. And the Abner Longley Park pickleball courts was short $53,759. Again, so those were 51815 for Memorial Park. And Abner Longley was 53,759, 53759 for a total of $105,574, 105,574. This brings the total pickleball court reconstruction to $325,000.
So just to clarify too, by doing an additional here, we're not cutting into what was the budget, $500,000. So you guys can still have that for your other projects if you want to do something with it. So I think last time I checked, there was 1.9 in the outside when the food and beverage fund. So yeah, and that goes up every month as well. So.
Pretty healthy, yes.
Yep. So any questions for Kevin on this one? Tanya,
What courts will that be?
Gosh, Mary, you're a pickleballer. There we go. Thank you, John.
And then 4 in Abner Longley, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah,
With
so
new fencing, new lighting, a full reconstruction of the playing surfaces. So the cracks, all this crack sealing that we've tried to do over the years, basically those courts, gosh, we think those date back into possibly the 80s. And they've been resurfaced a few times, but we're basically taking them all the way down to subgrade and reconstructing them.
Yeah, we did. We tried to do the resurface on them. I guess we turned them into pickleball courts. Was it 5 years ago now at this point? And unfortunately, we tried to take the first couple inches off and do a thick resurface, but it just, those cracks came back. There's just a structural base issue, kind of like we had with the basketball courts a few years ago. We just had to, it was time, and we got to go all the way back down to the base to rebuild it back up. So
When will these be done?
It's already under contract. They'll be starting April 1st in anticipation of having everything open by July 1. They're going to take one set offline, finish that one, then do the other one. So we'll always have some pickleball courts available for use in the city. Globe Paving is our selected consultant on that through a bidding process.
all right, Tanya, mind reading it, please?
In Resolution 2025-03 for additional appropriation, the municipal corporation within the state of Indiana, it is the duty and responsibility of the council to maintain fiscal integrity of the finances of the city. It's been determined we now need to ask for appropriation for more money that was in the annual budget. All additional appropriations require a public hearing, which will be tonight. And this is to appropriate funds from the Food and Beverage Fund to Memorial and Abner Longley Pickle Courts, again, from the Food and Beverage Fund 4439.
Thank you, Tanya. At this time, then, I'll open the public hearing on Resolution 2025-03. If you need public comment, please come forward. State your name for the record, as well as your address. Public comment? Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing on Resolution 2025-03. Any further discussion, comments from council, or a motion?
I'll make a motion to pass Resolution 2025-03 for $105,574.
Yep, we have a motion to adopt Resolution 2025-03. The motion is second from Keith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay, that is adopted. Thank you, council. That concludes what I have for new business. Anything from the council?
Mayor, can I
Yes.
take us back to?
Sure.
Kevin, come back. Can I take us back to Chadwick Ditch for a minute?
Whatever you'd like.
We're talking about a stormwater issue, okay? So I'm just curious, is there enough funds in stormwater to do a project like this? Or is there?
Absolutely. Gosh, it's been a while since I looked at the stormwater fund, but last time I checked, there was over 2 million in it. So that, if the decision were made to go forward, that is definitely a funding source that I think would be appropriate and that we should look to. I guess I'll toot the horn of Scott Calvert and Jason Lawson. They're doing a good job at auditing our stormwater collections and have found a lot of I guess places within the city that aren't paying their fair share of stormwater fees, and we're getting those things addressed as well. So we're shoring up that stormwater fund every day.
So, okay, so what do you think the next step is? If this project has been there for a long time.
Sure.
And it's been a major problem for a long time. So what do you think the next step is that we need to go to? I know we're not going to probably get anything done right away because John was talking about storm drains and so forth that are running out there.
I think the next step would be funding a study, not necessarily a study, but it would be an engineering contract that would investigate what we heard about the concerns with the roof downspouts and sump pumps, so we could take an inventory of what's there, figuring out how we can connect those most likely to our storm sewer system, not this mitigated area, and then that would include all the environmental permitting, construction drawings for that mitigation. So, yeah, it's probably close to a 6-figure number for all the design involved, just because it is federal permitting. Also, it's probably something that takes a year to get permits in place. So
I'm just kind of looking like, if we don't make a decision this evening to kind of take the next step level,
yeah,
that it's not going to happen. And we've been kicking this can down the road, and I'm not going to say whatever we do, whatever you do is going to fix what there, because I do know for a fact that Chadwick has a water problem. They've always had a water problem in that area. And
It is built off of Elm Swamp Road.
what?
It is
Yep.
built off of Elm Swamp Road.
Yeah. And,
There's a reason why there was a frog on our county seal, you know.
that's
There's
why it's rough.
there was a
So-
lot of standing water before field drainage and ditch systems were built. There's also a lot more care taken today to ensure that developments don't happen in floodplain and that things drain better. There's also a much more robust storm sewer system required for modern subdivisions.
See, that was built back in the 70s.
Yeah,
and
there was very little regulation.
There's no regulation back in there.
The
to
construction
really
plans don't even
worry
really
about
show all the storm sewers. So it is what it is. You know, neighborhoods built in that time, we have a lot of drainage issues. But I would say we have a lot of drainage issues in those older subdivisions all around the city. Chadwick is not in a class by itself. This is just something we had been asked to study, and that's what we're putting
I'd
forward.
like to try to look at doing something, try to get to the next level and see what we can find out.
I would say the next study. Go ahead.
Just to Commissioner Copeland, though, it may not fix the problem.
You understand?
Yeah, so, but I think if we don't show the people, because they came here this evening, if we don't try to take it to the next level, we're not doing anything.
It is a difficult problem to fix. I will say any time you're trying to fix drainage in older subdivisions, that's why we require sump pump lateral systems. We require rear yard drainage systems. We require street slopes that it cannot be less than 1%. We require much more robust storm sewer systems so that we don't have this problem going forward with subdivisions when they get to be older. When you build streets at 0.3% and you only put a storm inlet in every 300-400 feet, when something settles, a tree heaves a curb or a sidewalk, well, those are very hard things to fix when there's not infrastructure right out front or right out back. So
I will say we work with the county surveyor's office. We've worked with the state, the federal government. So it is a long process, but I agree with Dick. We got to start. We can't just keep saying we're going to start. We got to start to move forward to see where we're going.
My only comment would be, and again, this is speaking as a Chadwick Village resident, is that the best use of $350,000 though? Like more if we got to design it too, right? That's the biggest.
that 350 included design,
Oh, it did.
permitting, and
Okay.
construction. That was all in.
That makes me feel a little bit better, but that's the question, right? Is this the most pressing issue? Because it's, and I know you, and I know you're.
They're affected by it. You're going to get a yes answer because they spent the money for those homes. They spent a lot of money on those homes. I don't think it's within your backyard of where this problem is.
I know that, and I understand that, but I mean, also you could line up dozens of other neighbors in other parts of the town too that have
And we can
drainage
tackle
issues.
them one at a time like we're trying to do tonight.
That's fair. That's the decision we have to make, right? Because it's certainly, I know you're passionate about this issue, and it's a lot of money for a relatively small area, and that's the only thing I wanted to. But if it's the most pressing one area that we need to solve, and because we've heard it from people, then that's your decision to make. But I just wanted to
agree.
How many homes are in that development that are affected by this?
Berry Drive, some on Grant Boulevard, and then Travis Drive. So I don't know the number of homes.
More than a dozen, probably
Yeah,
less
probably a
than
dozen.
less than 50. Because it's whoever would back up to it,
But
right?
the case is, it's not getting better. It's getting worse. And that's the problem. If we could get better with it, but we're not getting better. The water keeps coming. It keeps getting higher and higher. And it's going to come to the point where it's going to start getting into homes and damaging and things like that.
But Mayor Lewis said that when he moved there, it was a lake. So I think
I moved there, it was a lake.
Okay, so it's better than it was.
I said it's gotten better, but now
Okay.
it's starting to get worse again.
17 homes would be adjacent to the project.
You said 17? That's quite a few to see that we do something for them to at least do the study, and maybe there's a different avenue we can take if you do the study.
I agree. I think with the sentiment where we're going here is I serve at your pleasure. I'm not able, we don't have a budget allocated for my, I guess, benefit to go out and do studies as I see fit. So if this is a study or construction allocation you want to make, or if it's that's what I'm looking for, is your
Or just a
direction.
directive to say, yeah, go get proposals and
Yeah,
we
that
can move
could be
forward
as simple
and
as
bring
that.
back
That's
proposals.
good.
We could do that. We could certainly do
Go
that.
get 3 proposals for engineering firms that want to help us fix this. And we could come back to you with engineering proposals, and we could ask them to include construction cost estimates, and then have more than just the one proposal that we have seen at this time.
Tell them we want no standing water.
I don't think that is an option for us, given the federal mandate involved.
I have a drainage ditch in my backyard, but I don't have that problem. If it rains, it might build up a little, but it's gone. It goes. It flows from the neighbor's house all the way through my yard and on down to the pond. I don't have those issues, but if I did, I'd be like really upset. So I can see,
I think we're going to see in the future here a change in that federal law where they have control of the side ditches.
WOTUS, yeah.
There was a big, the federal government lost a big lawsuit out west from a farmer out there, and they lost big time. And I think you're going to see a change.
These laws are in constant flux under different administrations, and I don't even think we know yet under the current administration what will happen, what will change, what might change, how will they be enforced. Which is why these are complex and take time to permit, because it's difficult and you're dealing with the federal government on these things.
It's the state that technically owns it. Do they provide any resources, any grants, any additional information for situations like this?
They don't own it.
Well, you
but
said
they,
what,
they,
the Army, what did you say?
the Army Corps of Engineers claims jurisdiction over
jurisdiction.
it.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. So it's not a county drainage ditch that we can get a permit from the county. That would have a whole different set of rules and actually make it easier, but it's not a county ditch, it's a city ditch. So yeah, but no, to your question, are there grants for repairing this? I'm not aware of any. I mean, any grants would be like possibly to involve turning this into a park or something like that could possibly help to facilitate it, but that wouldn't cover a lot of the project.
There's no like DNR restoration of wetlands grants or anything like that?
That's kind of where I was thinking.
No. Only maybe associated, there's DNR grants associated with park projects and things of that nature. But
Trying to think outside the box.
trust me, we try to not leave any stone unturned when we're looking for money. So at this point, if I guess I could make a recommendation, it would be to authorize me to go out and seek proposals and bring those back to you. Probably not in 2 weeks. It's probably too short, but at your March meeting, your first March meeting, I could come back to you with more information.
Council?
That's fine.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
All righty. Any other new business from council?
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, move on to claims. We're doing a motion concerning the claims. Motion made claims. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Rob. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Any announcements from council?
Is there any status on the lights for Lafayette Avenue at Camp Street there?
I believe they were in. Sorry, Jason left. They were in. They're going to be installed shortly.
Okay.
Yeah. Last I heard, have been finally delivered.
I
Well,
noticed.
on back order, and I believe they did show up, and I don't have an update for you on the schedule for installation.
Okay, that's
Yeah, but
good
they-
news right there.
Yeah, they
Thank
finally
you.
came in. So yeah, they're in now. Yep.
Thank you.
All right. With that, we're entertaining a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion adjourn and a second for John. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? All right. Our next meeting will be February 24th at 7:15 PM. We are adjourned.